Of course, forgetting Tom Brady. Once again, no respect for the Patriots quarterback. We're joined now by Nick Ayers, the executive director of the Republican Governors Association, Nathan Dashel's counterpart. You guys, I trust, are friendly. Want to start with New Jersey. We ended there with Nathan, but in New Jersey, we've got a tight race and a three-way race, an independent candidate who seems to be siphoning away a good amount of support from the Republican candidate. The question is, what do you have to do to combat that? Is this something that Republicans have to be continually worried about, the possibility of a third-party challenger who's maybe tapping into some of that Tea Party energy that we've seen out there over the last couple of months?
Well, Rick, I don't think that's what's going on in New Jersey. There are some other instances around the country where that's certainly been the case. But what's going on in New Jersey with Daggett is something entirely different. It's related just to the state. You asked Nathan the question, would Corzine even have a shot if Daggett weren't in the race? And I agree that he would still have a chance. I think the chances would be much lower. However, one of the things I would ask everyone to keep in mind is that on October 20th of 1993, the New York Times published a front page poll that showed Christy Todd Whitman down 15 points. This was October 20th. A week later, the Star-Ledger, the largest newspaper in the state, published another poll that showed Christy Todd Whitman down double digits to Governor Florio. Of course, we know what happened in 1993, where Christy narrowly won the race. I think the polls have tightened considerably. Some polls over the last week have even showed Corzine leading. But anytime you're an incumbent governor in a state where your party has a 500,000 voter registration advantage and you've spent over $30 million and you're forced to brag about your polls being at 40%, it shows you're in a precarious situation.
Of course, 40% may be a winning number in this race.
It could be.
You have said previously, Nick, you've said, I did not come to Washington to be that guy, that Republican operative who's going to pour millions and millions of dollars into New Jersey, tell the folks in my party that this is the year New Jersey's going to go Republican. You are that guy. You've poured millions and millions of dollars into New Jersey. And yet again, it may not be paying off for you.
I also said it in the context of saying, but this year's different. So I acknowledged that a few months ago that this opportunity is different for us, primarily because of the candidate that we have. You have a guy with an incredible record as a prosecutor and a public servant, matched on top of a governor who has failed. I mean, John Corzine campaigned on a few simple things 4 years ago, primarily to reduce people's taxes. And folks in New Jersey know that simply hasn't happened. Property taxes have been through the roof. He promised to curb government spending. That hasn't happened either. They're spending more money today than they were when he was elected governor. So the reality is this race is going to be close. I don't think that it's like Senate races in the past where committees have poured a lot of money in late. What the RGA did differently this year than committees have not in the past is we felt like our candidate was most vulnerable in the summer when he wouldn't have the funds to respond to Corzine spending millions of his own dollars. So we spent $5 million this summer holding Corzine accountable for frankly, his failed record. And the result of that was there were over 40 consecutive public polls that showed Christie leading at a point when he wasn't spending any money.
Now, Nick, if you win both of these races, we know what the storyline will be. If you lose both of these races, we know what the storyline is going to be. Now, if you tie, if it's a 1-1 situation, is that a setback for the Republican Party when you need to start chalking up some big victories?
You know, I've got to really commend my friend Nathan for how on message he was in this interview with saying that we have to win both.
Well, you can be off message in his honor if you'd like.
No, I'll just be realistic. The reality is these are two states that Barack Obama just carried easily less than a year ago. He won Virginia by 7 points. He won New Jersey by 15 points. The chairman of the Democratic National Committee is the incumbent governor of Virginia. The day that Creigh Deeds was nominated, Democrats around the country said, we've got the right guy, we can win this one. The reality is they're going to be scratching their heads in the West Wing if they lose either one of these. How do you explain a state that they were so proud to carry in Virginia, you install their governor as DNC chairman, and you lose the governor's race less than a year later? I think it's...
Let me ask you about that, about President Obama, because he's going back to Virginia tomorrow. He'll be back in New Jersey at the end of the week. Do you welcome that? Is that good for your team, or do you believe he is an effective weapon in this last week for these Democratic candidates?
Well, polls would suggest that he's not the boogeyman perhaps that Deeds was making him out in your clip. You know, Deeds was saying that, it was basically saying the president made it really tough on us in August. The reality is the president's right side up in approval ratings in both states. Governor's races are ultimately about governor's records, and it's the reason John Corzine is so vulnerable in New Jersey. In Virginia, look, I think there's no question. Deeds is basically acknowledging they've lost the message war. His image is a net negative 18 points. Right. Bob's is a net positive 12. The only thing that they have to rely on at this point is bringing Obama in and hoping to beat us on turnout. So
you're going to win them both?
We are in a position to win them both a week out. I'm not making any predictions.
All right, fair enough. Nick Ayers, Executive Director of the Republican Governors Association. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Thanks for being here. That does it for this edition of Top Line. Be sure to click us on again tomorrow.
It's twitter.com/The Note for all your political gossip and Yankee trash talking. It's all found at one great place. The full quarter hour on governor's races. I love it.
Campaign 2009.
Great.
Thanks a lot,
guys.
man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks.